Welcome, curious minds. We're diving into something pretty challenging today, a question that gets right to the heart of how many of us feel about politics right now.
Yeah, it's this idea, if you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe politically burnt out, is stepping back just understandable?
Or is it, as one really prominent voice puts it, fundamentally unforgivable?
That phrase, giving up, is unforgivable. That's the title and the core premise of Joyce Vance's book. It's a direct shot, really, at the apathy lots of people are feeling.
And today, we're not just, summarizing, we're really digging in, doing a rhetorical analysis to see how she builds that argument.
Yeah.
How does she try to shift people from feeling exhausted to feeling like they have to act?
Exactly. And just so you know, you are experiencing a unique two-voice AI conversation powered by Google's Notebook LM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
Our mission here is to pull apart the persuasive techniques, what makes this message land. It's not just what she argues, but the strategy behind it.
How she talks to that feeling of being overwhelmed, but still kind of compels you towards doing something, towards civic duty.
And look, this kind of deep dive, this focus on reflection and rational thought, that's what Mindful Moments is all about. That's our YouTube channel, offering AI book analysis and critiques.
We want to give you the tools, really, to understand how these arguments work in today's world.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The rhetorical battlefield, you could say. When was Vance writing this? And who exactly is she trying to reach?
Well, the timing is key. She wrote this when democratic institutions were facing, let's say, pretty significant stress.
Right.
There were open challenges and specific ideas being floated, like Project 2025 about, reshaping government power, the civil service.
So the stakes felt really high.
Yeah.
Existential, even.
Exactly. That's the occasion.
Yes.
And the audience, it's not really the dyed-in-the-wool activists, necessarily.
It's more the everyday concerned citizen, people feeling that burnout.
Precisely. It's aimed at those Americans, maybe moderate, liberal, nonpartisan, who believe in democratic norms but are just tired, exhausted by it all. They feel like they've hit a wall, but they still care.
Okay, so to reach that audience, she needs credibility, right? Ethos. How does she build that trust?
Well, she's got the credentials. Former U.S. attorney, law professor. That brings immediate weight. She knows the system from the inside.
But she doesn't just wave the CV around.
No, and this is crucial. She doesn't just rely on her resume. She builds emotional connection. She actually talks about her own moments of doubt, her own exhaustion.
Ah, so she puts herself on their level.
Yeah, it's like saying, I get it, I feel this weight too. That shared vulnerability, it makes her authority feel more real, less like a lecture from on high.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So her purpose then isn't just information, it's...
Oh, it's persuasion. Absolutely. She wants readers to push back against apathy, to get involved civically, reclaim that sense of agency.
And the tone reflects that. Stern, but also hopeful.
It's a mix. You get that urgency, that almost harshness with unforgivable. But it's balanced with this practical optimism, a sense that, yes, things are tough, but action is still possible, still meaningful.
All right, let's get into the core strategy then. This is where the real persuasive work happens, right? Turning that despair into a sense of duty.
Yeah, this is where we really see the rhetorical gears turning. Let's start with the emotional appeals, the pathos.
And the title itself is the big one.
It's the boldest move, for sure. Taking burnout, which most people see as, a natural reaction to stress, and reframing it.
Saying it's a moral failing if it stops you from acting.
Exactly. Calling it unforgivable weaponizes guilt, urgency. It's designed to jolt you out of complacency.
Okay, but I have to ask, is that risky? Using fear and guilt like that? Couldn't it just make people shut down even more, especially if they're already exhausted?
It is risky, but I think it's a calculated risk for her specific audience.
All right.
She anticipates that paralysis. She's basically saying, look, I know you're tired, but the stakes are too high. We can't afford the luxury of inaction right now.
So it forces a confrontation with the cost of stepping back.
Right. It tries to convert that passive feeling of despair into an active sense of responsibility. It's a tough love approach almost.
And to make those stakes feel real, visceral. She uses that metaphor, the boiling frog.
Yes. That's incredibly powerful pathos. It crystallizes the warning against complacency so vividly.
Explain that a bit for someone who hasn't heard it.
It evokes this primal fear, right? The idea that really dangerous changes like, say, creeping authoritarianism don't always happen suddenly. They can happen bit by bit. So slowly you don't notice the water temperature rising until
it's too late.
Exactly. It's an appeal to vigilance, drawing on historical examples where freedoms eroded gradually, almost unnoticed. It's meant to create a sense of immediate present danger.
But like you said, she can't just leave people there simmering in fear. There has to be a way out.
Right. And that's the pivot. She skillfully balances that urgency with hope. She uses these rallying cries, things that appeal to agency, maybe even national pride.
Like what kind of phrases?
Things like, "We are not quitters." Or emphasizing that the way to challenge the bully is at the ballot box. It offers a positive identity, a path forward. That hope is the essential counterweight to the shock of the unforgivable idea.
Okay, so that emotional journey sets up the logos, the logical argument.
Precisely. The emotion creates the why, and the logic provides the how. If the problem feels huge and systemic, the solution needs a clear, rational path.
So how does she lay out that logical roadmap?
It unfolds pretty methodically. First, diagnose the threat clearly. Then connect it to history, make it feel less like a unique, overwhelming crisis and more like a pattern we can recognize.
And
Then, crucially, offer concrete, actionable steps. The whole thing hangs together because she blends that urgent emotional diagnosis with a very practical, step-by-step plan.
and specificity matters here, you're saying. It's not just go participate.
Not at all. The logic is grounded in tangible actions. Things like, yes, voting, that's fundamental, but also trying to have dialogues across divides, paying attention to local government, school boards.
Even running for office yourself.
Even running for office, she includes a whole range. It's about making participation seem manageable, not abstract.
So the logic is feeling powerless.
Yeah.
Okay, here are specific things you can do right now at whatever level you're comfortable with.
Exactly. Break down the big problem into smaller, achievable tasks. That addresses the burnout directly by offering a pathway back to feeling effective.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about language and structure. The actual words she chooses, the way the book is put together.
Yeah, the diction itself is doing a lot of persuasive work. She uses words with heavy connotations.
Like unforgivable, obviously.
Right, but also things like resilience, counter-movement, and significantly calling the book a manifesto.
Manifesto, that's a strong word.
It is. It signals this isn't just commentary. It's intended as an active intervention, a declaration of principles, and a call to arms, basically. It elevates the whole thing beyond typical political analysis.
And structurally, how does the organization reinforce the message?
There's a clear pattern of juxtaposition. She constantly puts despair side by side with hopeful action.
Making you choose.
Forcing a choice, yeah. It urges you towards constructive participation instead of just sinking into cynicism. And the chapter structure reflects this.
How so?
Each chapter tends to diagnose some aspect of the crisis, build that sense of urgency, but then it pivots. It offers an inspirational angle, and critically, it usually ends with practical advice, concrete steps for civic renewal.
So you never get stuck in the problem for too long.
Exactly. You diagnose, you feel the urgency, but then immediately you're handed potential solutions, things you can do. It creates this rhythm problem, hope, action. Problem, hope, action.
That's a really powerful structure for motivation.
Yeah.
So overall assessment time, does the book achieve its goal? Does it succeed in persuading?
I'd say largely yes. For its intended audience, it's very effective. It successfully reframes participation not just as a good idea, but as an ethical must, a collective duty.
And that reframing empowers people who felt overwhelmed.
I think so. That blend of her legal authority, the strong emotional appeals, the vivid metaphors like the frog, it creates a compelling pathway out of apathy for those already concerned about the direction of things.
But let's talk limitations. You mentioned the intended audience. What about people who aren't already leaning that way? Skeptics, maybe conservatives?
That's the key caveat. The argument relies heavily on a shared moral framework, shared anxieties about democratic norms. If you don't share that initial diagnosis of the threat,
Or if you don't subscribe to that particular set of values.
right, then the heavy reliance on moral appeals, the unforgivable framing, it might not land. It could even feel alienating, maybe preachy, rather than mobilizing. Its effectiveness is quite targeted.
So, okay, to synthesize all this, the big takeaway is that Vance strategically crafts this argument that positions active democratic engagement as the only real antidote to political despair.
Yeah. It's built on her legal credibility, powerful emotional hooks, memorable metaphors, and a clear structure leading towards action.
It's a really interesting example of using kind of the full rhetorical toolkit to try and move people from passive worry to active citizenship.
Absolutely. By tapping into anxieties but immediately channeling them into practical steps, it manages to be both alarming and empowering. which is a tricky balance.
And analysis like this, really getting under the hood of how arguments work, aiming for that reflection and rational thought, that's what we do here.
Definitely. For more critical explorations like this one, check out Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel, and of course our podcasts for other deep dives.
So if this discussion resonated with you, if you're thinking about that move from analysis to maybe even action,
We'll leave you with a final thought drawn straight from the book's own imperative.
subscribe, share this analysis if you found it valuable, maybe check out the purchase link for the book itself if you're curious, and above all else, think critically about the path forward. Because deciding to participate, well, that's step one.